morning, fourth hour. Welcome back. Let's talk about what we get to do for week 7. So as you can see on the outline here, as per usual, I'm going to go over what you can expect this week and how to do the work, basically. So I'll do that. Also today, I get to teach you how to write your informative speech final draft. So this should be a bit of review since you've written a final draft before. But I'm going to review with you, how do I write this in short word format, and how do I include my visuals? Also going to teach you today how to practice with either another person or on your own. You get a choice. And I'll give you time in class to make your final draft and to practice. So that's what we're doing this week. There will be a point where I'll tell you you can use note cards or Post-its. Feel free to use any of those that are included on that white shelf. So over close to the desk there. So here's just a reminder of what it's going to look like when we transition back next week. This week, I do have open office Wednesday from 2 to 3. So if you need any help, click on this link. Or if that time doesn't work for you, please get a hold of me. They pay me to help you. I was delighted to see that coming back from break, I had a lot of assignments to grade. That's a good thing. All right, so like I said, this week, final draft and practice. Next week, you're going to perform your informative speech. We'll start the week with that. Then we're going to do Unit 2 reflection and start Unit 3 persuasive. So by next week, we'll start researching your persuasive speech. That means I would suggest start thinking of a topic now. In other words, start thinking of what is an opinion that I really think other people should have, or what is something I would like to persuade people on. I think people should believe this, or I think they should act this way. So you get to be a little bit more controversial, if you will, in this next speech. You get to have more of your opinion. So reminder, the last week to submit late work from weeks 1 through 7 is next Friday, because the week after is the last week of quarter 3. And we'll be working on the persuasive speech that last week. Same kind of info, just in checklist form for you here. All right. So at this point, let's show you how this looks for you on your handout, what you're going to write. So your work this week is formative. Next week, you have some summative work because you'll be performing your speech and writing a reflection. Both of those things are summative. So task 1 here is writing the informative speech, your final draft, in short word or bullet point format. And once I go over this, I'll show you an example as well. You have a choice. You can either write your short word final draft using the template again, or you can write it on note cards or Post-its, take a picture, and then post it here so I can see it to grade it for you. So that's task 1. Task 2 is going to be practicing your final draft with your visuals. As we're going to review the requirements for the speech, one of them is having a visual and using it to teach. So here you write what your visual plan is. Here's an example. So you can use the example to tell how to write yours, but I wouldn't write it word for word because this is my visual plan. So I'm filming my speech. So my visual plan is to emphasize the 3 main points with gestures and voice. I've written reminders on my note cards. Next, before you start practicing, if you're working with another person, you tell them what PV leg skill or other skill in which you need feedback. If you're practicing alone, you're going to write here before watching the video what skill it is you're going to be looking for in the video. So for example, I could write voice here. I could write voice. I need to work on being louder, so projection. Or if you don't remember the PV legs and you just want to describe the skill you think you need help in, just do that. So you'll put that there for 2. For 3, when you're practicing with a partner or on your own with your visual, you're going to write which practice you chose and why. So if you chose to practice with another person, right? I chose to practice with blah, blah, blah because, or I chose to practice on my own. So I filmed it. I thought that would work better because I'm going to film it for the performance, whatever it is. Step 4 here from your practice is you're going to write at least 2 comments of feedback from that speech. So if you're working with a partner, I would suggest having them write the 2 pieces of feedback. You can just hand over the iPad and they write it. If you're working on your own, you watch the video of your practice and write 2 things you noticed. If you're not sure what to talk about it just like you do for example speeches. So I thought my voice was really good. I did a good job on projection, the thing I was worried about. I also thought that maybe I needed to practice more. Whatever it is you see. You should also write what the performing time is so you know whether or not you got to add stuff or take away depending on your time. So for 5, you're going to get feedback on that first skill you talked about at the beginning. So that's either from the people you partnered with or from watching the video. So in my case, it was voice. So I would write, yeah, my voice was okay here. I think it's strong. I think I can work on something else. Finally, last step here for your practice is overall, how does your speech look? So write at least 1 comment on how it looks or 1 thing you're going to work on to improve, at least 1 solid thing. And that's your work for this week. So at this point, if you haven't opened up week 7, I would suggest you do so. I'm going to review with you how to write your final draft, and then you'll have time to practice here. Okay. So before I even talk about final draft, I want to review with you how is your performance going to be graded next week. So this is either in class or on film. So this is a summative assessment, so it's worth 60% of your grade. So you're getting 20 points for performing this next week. 5 points for using visuals well to teach. Remember, we talked about background visual versus a teaching visual. And don't assume your audience gets it right away. So point out to specifics, or if you're filming, use PV legs actively and knowingly. So for example, every main point you could emphasize with your voice. Next 5 points is on pace and timing. Is your pace good to teach? And are you within the time window of 3 to 5 minutes? Going to keep that same time window for the next speech as well, 3 to 5 minutes. Our goal is not to build up to a master 15-minute speech, 3 to 5. That's your longest speech. All right, next, going to grade you on PV leg. So 3 points for each. How did you do on poise, voice, life, eye contact, and gestures? Finally, tone and type of speech. So is your tone informative, and have you referenced your research to show your credibility? So those are the things I'm looking for when I either watch your in-class performance next week or your filmed one. So when you write your rough draft for this, last week or the week before, we wrote the rough draft in ABC 1, 2, 3 format. Keep that format to make your final draft because that format already has balanced form. So use that format. As I said earlier, change your phrasing from your rough draft so it's only in short word. In other words, you should only have written down keywords to prompt you of what you're going to say. However, there's an exception to that. The exception to short word is any quoted information, because quoted, you have to have it word for word. It has to be precise. So if it's quoted information from your research, that can be word for word. That's fine. And then finally, on your final draft, make sure to write how and where you're going to use your visuals so that you've smoothly included that in your performance. I feel really bad for students who kind of remember at the end, as you can see them at the end of the speech being like, well, as you can see, and then they quit, go back to the visual. Much easier to do it this way, much easier to plan it in from your performance. Let me show you what that final draft might look like. So this is mine. I kept, and I have this in your folder as well. I kept the same format. So I kept that ABC 1, 2, 3 format. So here I got the hook, context, credibility, and then the thesis, right? And I've written just enough so that I can remember what I need to say. So short word. Notice also on my note card, I've numbered them. That makes it much easier when you perform, right? Same kind of deal for the body here. So like I said, you can use quotations for a full quote. So here I'm quoting the Mayo Clinic, so that's word for word. Okay, so now let's review a little bit about how to practice it and then give you time to do these things. So as I said earlier, you can choose to practice with a partner of your choosing, either in the class or outside, siblings, parents, anyone in the RISE room, all those folks would work. Or you can practice on your own and film it, and then you would just watch the video. So like I said, either way, you need feedback on what's working and what needs work. Then you're going to answer the prompts on the week 7 handout from doing those steps. And finally, make any changes to your final draft so that next week you're ready to perform. And as always, if you have questions, please let me know. I'm here to help you. You have the rest of the time to get those things done. Go for it.